Trying to find a goalie for the emergency backup.
Someone we know who's on call, lives nearby. We know him, we've seen him, so it's obviously good for us.
Okay, all right. So you're wondering how to become an emergency backup goalie. Well, this is how I did it. Now, for those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Dustin Smith, and I currently serve as the emergency backup goalie here in Nashville, Tennessee. And today the Preds play the Blackhawks, so I'll kind of be bringing you along through my day as I explain to you how I became an emergency goalie. But this is going to kind of end up looking very similar to a day in the life of an emergency goalie, which is a video that I did at the end of last season. So I'll be putting that up here somewhere for you to check out. But I guess before we explain how to become an emergency goalie, we kind of have to explain what an emergency goalie is. And if you already know what an emergency goalie is, you could just go ahead and skip forward a little bit. You don't have to stick around for this. Now, if you haven't figured out by now, EBUG stands for emergency backup goalie. And in the NHL, there is a rule that requires each team to have someone in the arena that can serve as an emergency option just in case there are any goalie injuries. Now, of course, each team has a starting goalie and a backup goalie, but if for whatever reason the starting goalie gets hurt or cannot play, then of course the backup goalie will play, and then the emergency backup goalie would then go down and get dressed and serve as the backup goalie for the rest of the game. And then of course, if anything happens to the backup goalie while he is playing, then the emergency backup goalie would then jump into the game and finish things out to keep the game going. Now, with this rule, the emergency backup goalie could end up playing for either the home or the away team, depending on the situation. Now, the first time that we saw an emergency goalie play in a game was with Scott Foster and the Chicago Blackhawks. Of course, he played with the home team in that game. But the second time we saw it was with David Ayres when he played with Carolina Hurricanes in Toronto. And since then, we've seen a number of situations where emergency goalies have gotten dressed for the away team. But enough about this history lesson on EBUGs. Let's go ahead and talk about how I became an EBUG. Now, my story as an emergency goalie really starts with the lockout back in 2012. I know it's a very long time ago now, but back then I found myself in a situation where I was practicing with the Preds just about every day during the lockout. At that point, I was very much just a Joe Schmo, a guy around town who was playing beer league, and not to say that I'm really that much different now, but through some people that I know, I would usually end up practicing with just a couple pro guys over the summer, just some skill sessions to kind of help guys get ready for the season. But this year during the lockout was a little different. That summer became kind of a big pivotal point in my hockey playing journey. I got to meet a lot of really awesome guys like Pekka Rinne and Chris Mason. I got to be on the ice and practice with an NHL team for almost a full 3 months during that whole lockout. And then coming out of lockout and moving into the shortened season, I was called upon to jump into practices to give guys rest during the shortened season so that they can stay fresh throughout the year. And through this whole experience, I really developed a pretty good relationship with the team, and a lot of people got to know who I was. But after it was all said and done, I really thought that was kind of it for me. I thought I just had a really cool experience during the lockout, and moving into the season after that, I thought that I was just kind of done. But it wasn't until a situation in Florida that would really spark this whole EBUG thing. But before I dive into that whole part of the story, we got to get ready to go to the rink. I'm actually jumping on the ice with old Captain Canada himself, Ryan Smith. He has a group of young guys running through some drills, and being the local guy with some goalie pads, I got the call to jump out for practice. So let's get things going. We'll head out to the rink and continue this story. Now, the Florida situation is where I would say the emergency backup goalie kind of got its start. Now, if you recall back in 2015, the Florida Panthers had a situation where starting goalie Roberto Luongo ended up getting hurt. Backup goalie, I don't remember if it was Dan Ellis or Al Montoya at the time. But the backup goes in to relieve Roberto Luongo and ends up getting hurt himself. Now, this was the first time the NHL was in a situation where they just straight up didn't have a goalie. But in the midst of the whole situation, Florida would take what would be a very negative situation and try to turn it into a positive, and created a contest called the Goal of a Lifetime. And this would also be where my story kind of continues with this whole emergency backup goalie thing. But we're pulling up to this private rink. Let's go ahead and jump in here, jump on the ice, and get the legs going so we can stay sharp for tonight. You know, just in case.
Should probably at least try to get somewhat of a stretch in, right? Get these old bones going. Oh man, just kind of jumping into this one. Got a solid group here. 4 guys. These are some young kids though. Should be fun. Ryan Smith usually sets up some pretty solid drills, so should be able to get a good look at some pucks. Like that. See if we can score this one. Ah, just a bit outside. Just adding a little extra work for myself. Oh! Little Schmitty with the snipes today. He must have got a new stick for Christmas. All right, I'm scoring this one. Yes! That's what this practice is about, really, just trying to score a goalie goal, right? If you're not working on that in practice, what are you working on? Making saves? Uh-oh, big Schmitty. Oh, kid still got it. All right, same thing on the other side. See if we can keep the patience going. Little Schmitty's on my list right now. Kid sniped me too much. All right, positioning check. How we looking? Nice and square. Nice and set. Not getting too wide in our stance. That's what we're looking for. Except maybe actually catching it, not letting it just bounce off the glove like a second blocker. This one's a goal for sure. Oh, nice and easy, just trickling on down there. That's a goal. Any league that doesn't have a goalie or other players. Holy snipe. No 5-hole here. Oh, that almost snuck through. There we go. Oh no! Alright, new set of skaters here on this drill. We got 4 total. Let's see how many we can get in a row. There's one. Alright, we got a little Schmitty. He's got my number today. Oh, I barely got a piece. I'm going to count it. That's 2 saves. Here we go. 3 out of 4. That's just intimidation. Finishing off strong, baby, strong. All right, guys, get 4 shots each. Let's see how we do. That's 1. Oh, there's 2. Oh, I thought that went in. 3 shots. There's the 4th. And they're continuous. 1 shot. Oh my God. 2 shots. 3 shots, bad rebound. 4 shots. All right, next shooter. All right, this one's a bagger. 1 off the post. Oh, bad rebound. Holy snipe town. He's got 2 out of 4. Oh, I got 1. Legs are tired. Dig deep, Bones. Let's go. Last one, last one. Oh my God. What? Oh, back. Okay, wow. That was a fun skate. Like, that absolutely took it out of me, and I was really kind of like struggling to survive there at the end, but that was a good skate. I really like jumping out with that group. It's really cool that I get invited out just to kind of fill a net for that, but it's kind of a similar situation to what I do over the summers with pro groups when they're in town and getting ready for their season. And I've actually heard similar stories with other goalies in other cities that got their start as an emergency goalie by being around during the summers and working with these pro groups and kind of developing that relationship with the team. But now, where was I with this whole story? Oh yeah, the goal of a lifetime. So of course, me being the person that I am, I couldn't pass up an opportunity to go on a fun little trip and bring my gear with me and jump on the ice. So I packed my bag, went down to Florida to jump in on this fun competition that was being held.
You know, we tried to make a positive spin on it and say, you know what, if we can have a practice goalie for the day and put on something like this, let's do it. It's a fantastic turnout. We had over 1,500 applications. You know, we're down to 60 plus guys here and girls, and it's been a lot of fun so far.
After this pretty intense tryout session, myself and Bill Ruggiero were named as the finalist in this competition, and during this game against the Montreal Canadiens, we were put in a shootout during the intermission. And after a pretty fun little shootout, me and Bill ended up tying this competition. And as the winners, we were invited to practice the next day, and we ended up getting season tickets for the rest of that season. But it was such a cool experience. We got a really awesome tour around the arena. We got to meet a bunch of staff members. And for those of you familiar with Bill Ruggiero, you know that his sister is also in the Hall of Fame. She played for Team USA, and it was really cool to get to meet her too through this whole experience. And funny enough, Bill Ruggiero would end up moving out of Florida at some point, and then eventually became the emergency backup goalie in, I believe it's Detroit. But up to this point, there was no emergency backup goalie rule just yet. And after this situation, the NHL was left with the problem of figuring out how to handle a situation like this moving forward. And if I'm not mistaken, the following year is when we see the birth of the emergency backup goalie. A new rule that will require to have someone in the arena to serve as an emergency option just in case another situation like that arise. And from that, we ended up seeing a handful of other competitions that were pretty similar to what we saw in Florida with a goal of a lifetime. I'm pretty sure the LA Kings held their own competition, and I want to say the New Jersey Devils also had their own competition. And funny enough, I had some friends that told me that I should go to these competitions and just kind of keep this thing going. But after having my experiences with the Preds during the lockout and then the goal of a lifetime in Florida, I again just kind of figured my time was done. And this would be someone else's opportunity to have a really cool experience with the NHL in the emergency backup goalie situation in these other cities. But of course, that wouldn't be it for old Bonesy. That wouldn't be the end of this hockey journey. But of course, we got to get ready for this game against the Blackhawks tonight. So we will finish this story later tonight when we go to this Preds game to serve as the emergency goalie.
like to put the VR headset on to get the eyes going before the games. But if you're interested in getting Sense Arena, use promo code BONES. It'll save you $50 and it'll also help support the channel. It is EBUG time, baby. Let's go. Once the emergency backup goalie rule was made official, I was contacted by the Nashville Predators and asked if I wanted to be their EBUG. And of course, with an opportunity like that, there was no way I could turn it down. So ever since the beginning of the EBUG rule, I have been their EBUG. Going to home games and watching all of my favorite goalies play, checking out warm-ups and seeing how each individual guy goes through their own routine. And along the way, I've met a lot of other really great emergency goalies, like Justin Goldman of the Goalie Guild, who is a former Avs EBUG, or Kyle Conan, who currently serves as the Tampa Bay Lightning emergency goalie. I even had a chance to meet Ottawa's EBUG and the Bruins EBUG during the global goaltending retreat last year. And as the years progress, more and more names emerge from city to city, each person having their own individual experiences as an emergency backup goalie, and each season offering its own potential emergency situation as each year goes by. And of course, for me personally, I've had a few experiences of my own, but that's going to be a story for another video. But speaking of other videos, I am working on an emergency backup goalie frequently asked questions. So if you have any emergency goalie related questions, make sure to leave them in the comments below, and I'll end up pulling those and using them for a future video. But on that note, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, and as always, we'll see you around.